It's time to talk thoroughbred horse racing on Prime Sports Network. Jon Hardoon joining me for this week. How's it going, John?
Good, Greg. How are you?
Good. So no Chad. I know that there are some fans out there.
Well, whoever listened last week is certainly going to miss Chad this week because he knocked it out of the park. He hit the exacta Colt.
Tahana Twist and Miles Ahead, the 2-3.
Right.
Yeah, Miles Ahead. That was the 15-1 long shot.
Yeah, he got second, his horse.
And then,
well, he liked the winner. He actually liked the winner. We didn't understand why Francesco Arrieta got off of the two, off of the six or whatever it was to ride the two. And Chad said, "Not so easy, boys." He was quoting Lee Corso.
Yeah, that was another Chris Hartman horse.
Yeah.
And
he almost ran 1-2. If he ran 1-2, we would have hit it. But he had it. Chad had it the right way with the winner on top and the exacta. So congratulations and good job.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a lot of money on Miles Ahead. That went down from 15-1 to 5-1, unfortunately.
But I told you the guy that makes the morning light not too swift.
So that was last week. And by the way, Chad, if you have any questions, because I know we already had somebody that had a question for Chad, thought he was going to be on the show this week because this is the first time Chad hasn't been on the show for months. But he is in Dubai.
Well, he has a legitimate excuse. He's in Dubai.
Yeah, so Rockface asked a question. So, Mr. Face, we are forwarding your question to Chad, and hopefully Chad will be able to respond directly on the page on this, either probably on this page of the show. We'll have him respond to you on this page for the show, and he'll let you know what he thinks about. Now, how do you pronounce it? Is it Meydan? Medine?
Yeah, Meydan.
Meydan. Okay, so he said, let's see, he is the man to report which horse he thinks is flourishing on the Meydan track. Best judge there is going on horses in Meydan. So kind words from Rockface to Chad Summers. And by the way, Rockface also loves listening to Chad and John, serious horse people who know their stuff. So thanks a lot, Rockface. Appreciate the...
Thanks, Uncle Rock.
There you go. And this week we do have some Derby prep races. Actually, one Derby prep race that we're going to get to in the second race we're going to handicap, and that's the Louisiana Derby. So that's really, that's when you know the prep races are getting serious, because next week's the Florida Derby and Arkansas Derby as well, right? Next week?
Yes, sir.
And then you've got the Wood, the Santa Anita, and the Bluegrass 2 weeks from now.
We're getting there.
Yeah. So we're going to start off, and we got the two races from Fairgrounds, and we're starting off with the 9th race, the New Orleans Classic. This is a race that'll go off about 5 o'clock on Saturday, 1 1/8 miles. And this is a $500,000 purse for 4-year-olds and up. I was looking at, now, of course, our collector's the horse that just hits you on the screen there, the 8-5 shot. But here's a question I have for you, John. Here's our collector. We know he's the serious favorite of the race. He's got 11 wins out of 21, 8 out of 10 at the distance. He's coming off a 6 at Gulfstream. So my question is, now that he's 6 and he ran a 6, he's had time to recover from that. Do you start feeling a little bit antsy on whether or not he can recover fast enough from the 6 and run another good race?
Let's look back at his history. I mean, technically, I know he ran a 6 last time out, but technically he's actually getting a little worse, because 2 years ago he had a 5 and a 4 for Mott. Last year, only able to work his way down to an 8, that race at Saratoga. Yep. He did come out with a big race last time out with winning the Pegasus. He beat Cyberknife in that race. He was very good that day. And again, the Mott barn remains on fire. But that being said, I would try to beat this horse. He doesn't really put races together. You got to go back 2 years to see him put races together at a short price. I would try to beat him.
Yeah, it's really been since that 4 and 5.
Not only that, Greg, but he's never run at Fairgrounds. He's never even worked at Fairgrounds. So, why take him at a short price when you have other horses that aren't that far away that already have run well there?
Yeah, the 3 actually, sheet-wise, looks like he's running a little bit more smoother, the 2-1 shot, because he's got 11, 8, 8, 7. So he's like moving in a better direction. Also
He
6 years
is,
old.
but it's also Brad Cox who does very well there. He's sitting at 40%.
And
So,
Pratt.
yeah, and he works at Fairground. He worked at Fairgrounds his last 3 works, so I would assume he's probably stable there. But I would go a different direction. Excuse me. What's wrong with the 7 or 8, Mr.
Absolutely.
Wireless?
Oh, well, I should say this. We did the show. What was it? It was the last race of Pioneer Medina. That race, and that was our pick, Pioneer Medina, and he came out and he won.
You got up by a head over the 7,
Yeah.
Mr. Wireless.
Yes.
But here's the question: why would you bet Pioneer Medina over Mr. Wireless at half the price? Pioneer Medina is 9-2. He beat that horse only by a head last time out. Listen,
I'd like to put them together.
Pioneer Medina certainly likes the track. He has 2 wins over the track.
Yeah.
But Mr. Wireless doesn't hate the track. He has 4 starts with 3 seconds.
Yeah. That'd be that'd be a nice exact if we can get those two together and eliminate the 2 favorites.
Well, they're not that. They run 7s, Greg, so they're not that far apart, and they're probably the right way to go. Those are the horses that I would be interested in. As far as a long price, the 4 horse Trafalgar is first time for Chris Hartman, and Chris Hartman has been on fire. Every horse he's gotten, he's moved way up. So, the horse obviously would have to run a new top. I'm just pointing a horse out to you that's going to be every bit of 30-1. But I like the 7 and 8, Mr. Wireless and Pioneer of Medina. I think one of those horses, listen, you have pick 3s, you have doubles, you have everything to move forward off of that horse. So I would use those 2 horses, Mr. Wireless and Pioneer Medina.
Yeah, and the great the line for Pioneer Medina, if dating back all the way to May of last year, is as good as you'd really like to see it. 39, 23, 14, 11, 10, 7. Gotten better every race in the last 6 races. And if he just keeps that up, then maybe he's got a 6 on him on Saturday. But again, Mr. Wireless, like you said, has already run a 6, and he did that in October.
And he ran, believe it or not, he ran a 7 last time out, the same number that Pioneer Medina ran. Right? And, why not? He's going to be a longer price.
And I looked at the 4 fairgrounds races for Pioneer Medina. The 4 races, the first one 14, second one 9, then 8, then 7. So he's also getting better every time he races at fairgrounds. And then you throw in the fact, because you mentioned the other 2 favorites, you got the fact that those 2 favorites have never raced at fairgrounds.
That's correct.
And 7 and 8 have.
So you're answering your question yourself.
So
you're exactly right, and that's it.
Yep. So how about Treasury? Because you looked at the other long shot. Treasury has raced a lot at fairgrounds. No single digits, but at least the horse seems to be consistent with 12s and 10s and 11s.
Yeah, but you don't get better at the age of 6. That's his problem. That's why if you're looking for a horse that ran a 10,
4-year-old.
That's why Trafalgar I would rather go with. He's a 4-year-old, a newborn, and he's longer than Treasury.
All right, so that's race number 9. Now we're going to go to the Louisiana Derby, race number 12. This should go off about 6:45. $1 million purse, and this is actually a very there are a lot of good horses in this race, so I was happy about that. And it may be a little bit harder to handicap, but still it's a good race. Taking a look at the favorite, Instant Coffee, the 2-1 shot, coming off a 12 at fairgrounds, and that was his best race. How good is Instant Coffee as far as do you think he's definitely the class of this field?
Well, I don't believe in class, but do I think he's better than this field? I think he's a little better than this field. Remember, you're dealing with lightly raced horses, and he's one of the lightly raced horses. He only has 4 lifetime starts, and he's won 3 of the 4 races. Listen, this is a gold square horse that my son and Chad were involved in buying. So obvious, this is Cyberknife all over again. This is this year's version of Cyberknife. So we are going to obviously have a biased opinion. But that being said, he's really a good horse and he's getting better. And the barn seems to think he's as good as he's ever been. He could certainly run a 10 off of this line, and a 10 is going to get the job done. You see, the good thing about if you like instant coffee, I mean, the bad thing is the price, obviously, but his main competition, I think, is all drawn outside. I think the horses that could beat him are going to lose ground, and, he's got the post position that's going to help. He's drawn inside, which is a big edge, I think. And Louis Saez is going to get to make a choice after this race if he's riding instant coffee or he's going to ride one of those Pletcher horses that he won on last week. Where was that? At Tampa Bay? Was he was on that horse that won the Tampa Bay race? I can't think of his name now, but you will tell me. You know everything. Who won the Tampa Bay Derby?
The Tampa Bay a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
I'll get that for you.
Tap it twice, tap whatever his name is.
Yeah, I'll get that. By the way, he's a closer, right?
Yes.
So the other closer in the race, Tappett's Conquest. Now, I know he had a disappointing fourth last time out.
By the way, he's also trained by Brad Cox.
Yes.
And rumor has it he's going to scratch.
Really?
Yeah, because Cox doesn't want to run instant coffee, I guess, and Tappett's Conquest against each other. He's got time to run these horses against each other. I'm sure he wants to get one of these horses enough points. Listen, if either one of them hit the board, they're probably going to have enough points now to get into the Derby. This is a 100-pointer. So he's got a race for Tappett's Conquest, another Derby race, I think next week or the week after, and that's where he'll be running.
Because I'll like Tappett's Conquest when he races, so we'll talk about that.
Yeah, listen, his line is beautiful. 12-1. That would have been my choice. Leave me in the race, but I think he's going to scratch from what I understand. It's not official, my opinion.
Yeah, because what I was looking at, and I don't know, this is just obviously you'll know better than me, but it looked like he ran a mile and a 16th in January, and he just missed losing by a neck. Then stretches it out to a mile and an eighth, but in that race, it looked like he had a little bit of trouble. Like he was like maybe stuck outside. He was like way too.
Yeah, he was hung out extremely wide.
So, and he still finished fourth, which is, I'm sure, part of the reason why he had a positive 12 after the 14.
He got a lot of credit for being wide that day.
Yeah, so I figure, hey, you know what? Another mile and an eighth race without the trouble. And this is at 10-1. That's also what was really inviting about Tappett's Conquest, but unfortunately, maybe he won't be there. By the way, the Tampa Bay Derby winner, Tappet Trice, that was the Pletcher Saez horse.
Right. So Saez is going to, Pletcher, that horse is going to the Derby, or they're certainly counting or expecting him to possibly run in the Derby. So I think Saez will pick instant coffee.
All right, let's take a look at some other possibilities. How about the 12-1 shot? Shopper's Revenge. The sheet line is fine. 18, 15, 13. That's positive. He's got the one position, 12-1. So that's okay. What about that horse?
Never did anything wrong. He at least worked at Fairgrounds. He has a bullet work on March 20th when he worked the best of 19. He's fine, but he's like a lot of other horses in the race. You have a lot of horses moving forward, for the most part. Look at Sea Thunder.
Sun Thunder, same thing. Yep, 18, 17, 15, and 13.
Doesn't his sheet look exactly like Shopper's Revenge? It does to me.
That's another closer, right?
Yeah, and look at Disarm. Disarm ran a 14 as a 2-year-old at Saratoga, which was very good. He came out as a 3-year-old and ran the 14, so he's okay. King Barnes is 2 for 2 lifetime, and Pratt's coming in to ride him. So a lot of these guys are looking for Derby mounts also, so pay attention to where the jockeys are going. It matters here.
Cagliostro, the 7 is a 12-1 shot. Do you expect a bounce here, though?
Yeah, and he's coming off of Lasix. All these horses that were on Lasix are going to come off of Lasix. You see, that's another good thing, by the way, about instant coffee. He's never been on Lasix.
Okay.
So it's not going to affect, even Tappett's Conquest, who we think is going to scratch, was on Lasix 2 starts back. Last time out, he came off of Lasix. He still made the forward move. But for the most part, you don't want to play horses coming off of Lasix if you have a choice.
Okay, so I guess the big difference between the 4 at 5-1 the 6 at 6-1, and the 5 at 10-1, or the 1 at 12-1 are the odds. You get better odds with the 1 and the 5. Do you think because of the fact you don't really see much of a difference between those 4 horses that you might as well just go with the horses that have a little bit better odds?
It's going to be a game time decision. That's exactly what you're going to do. And by the way, there's another horse in the race, the other Brad Cox horse, the 11 horse, Jace's Road.
Okay.
He ran the 13 as a 2-year-old at Fairgrounds. And then he came out, he bounced on a wet track when he ran the 15. So he could certainly make a forward move. He has that 13 to go back to. It's Brad Cox again. And he's also a price.
Yes, absolutely. And Giroux is having a hell of a meet so far. Wow.
And if you look that's because he's riding for Cox, and Cox is at 40%. Yeah. But if you look at JC's Road, I guess you're going to pronounce it, the worst race he ran as a 2-year-old was the 38, correct? That 38 was on a sloppy track, right? This year when he ran on a sloppy track, also a bad race of 15, but not as bad as a 38. So this horse could just be getting better. And this is a horse which I certainly would use underneath Instant Coffee. He's going to be a big price.
And by the way, the best race this horse ran was the Fairgrounds race.
Thank you. Both his last 2 races were at Fairgrounds, and both were good. And the off-track 38 as a 2-year-old shows you he hates an off-track, and as much as he hated it, he still ran the 15 last time out. So I'm just pointing out little nuances to you and to people that are listening, that you can make a case sometimes for long-priced horses, and you're looking to build a case for a horse, isn't this it?
Absolutely. I mean, I might actually, again, because that horse's, the odds are not going to go lower than 12-1.
No, not from out there.
No.
I mean, maybe it was a Cox, but for the most part, I don't see them betting this horse.
Now, the only thing is that the 11 position, this horse is going to try to get the lead fast, right?
Well, that's only going to help Instant Coffee if he tries to do that, because I'm sure there's other speed in the race. When you got 12 horses, you could be sure 3 or 4 of them are going. They're not just going to allow a horse go on a lonely stroll in the park. That's not happening.
What's the deal with the 1 strategy? Because when looking at the last 2 races, I'm not sure I understand. Like, it looked like they wanted to go for the lead in January, and then the last race, it looked like he was more of a closer.
Well, those were both at Oaklawn, and the race 2 starts back in January. He had an inside post that day.
Okay.
So it took him no effort to make the lead. He made the lead in 1 jump. The last race, he was breaking from post 8. So he didn't want to use the horse, I guess, to try to get to the lead. He took him back, and obviously the horse could go either way. He's showing you that. So that's a good horse when you can go either way. There's no question about it. But I don't believe he'll be 12-1. I think he'll probably be shorter than 12-1. But again, he's similar to other horses. I was just pointing out Jace's Road because he looked like the other horses. And
absolutely,
he's going to be, I think, a longer price.
Yeah, I think I'd rather take a chance with the 11 than the 7, because the 7 almost looks, like a definite bounce candidate.
I agree with you 1,000%.
11 last time out. By the way, is the Sun Thunder taking a look here at the mile and a 16th race? That was on a sloppy track, though. And then the next race at Fairgrounds was the same distance, 1 1/8. In that race, first time at 1 1/8, looks like could you look at that and say, was he getting tired because he was stretching out? Or do you say, well, he was on the outside, maybe he just exerted a little bit too much, and that's why he didn't have his, maybe as much as
Are you talking about his last
race?
His last race was the best race he's ever run. He ran a 13. Right?
Correct, yes.
Off the sheet. So the reason I don't like him is, first of all, he's only 5-1.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the foundation as a 2-year-old. He didn't run the 12 or 13 as a 2-year-old where some of these other horses have. Again, he's done nothing wrong, but it looks like he's a late developer. His first race wasn't until the end of November, right?
That's true, too.
So he's lightly raced. Obviously, he has room for improvement. But I would rather bet horses that did it earlier.
So if we take Instant Coffee out of the equation, because we know how much you're tied to that horse, what other horses? Give me 2 or 3 that are at the top of the list.
Jace's Road for sure. The other Cox horse. Um, Disarm is okay. He ran a 14 early as a 2-year-old. His last race was he equaled his top. Came right out of the box and ran the 14, so that's certainly a positive sign. He's lightly raced. He's going to stretch out for the first time. He's never been this far, but that 14 at 2 is a powerful number for that time of year. Back in August, to be able to run a 14, that's very
And
strong.
Rosario first time.
And Rosario first time. There you go.
So 5 and
And
11. Okay.
yeah, if you're looking for other horses that have
All right,
shots.
that sounds good. I think we covered all of the horses to keep an eye on. So definitely look out for the horses, the ones that we mentioned that you're going to get better odds. Because if one of these 10-1 shots fly down to 4-1, then obviously we completely change our mind. So
You're going to pull an audible
yeah,
and change
and
mind.
go with another horse that we talked about. So
Exactly.
and then again, race number 9. In that one, we're going with the 7 and the 8, Mr. Wireless and Pioneer of Medina. So
Correct.
That will wrap it up again next week. The next 2 weeks, it gets serious. Chad will be back.
Yeah. Yes, he
and
will.
We've got 5 Kentucky Derby, the best 5 Derby prep races on the year for the next 2 weeks. So looking forward to that. John, appreciate your time as always.
Thank you, Greg. Stay safe and be well. And I'll send that message to Chad.
We'll get that message to him.
And he will answer Uncle Rock's
and
questions.
hopefully, so what's his horse?
What's
he has
his
a horse out in Dubai?
No, he had one last week.
He already raced.
Yeah, this is his television career, I guess.
Okay. Can we watch him somewhere, like on YouTube or something?
I have no idea. But if you send him a text or an email, I'm sure he'll answer.
Hopefully. Yeah, because right now he's sleeping.
Yeah, it's the middle of the night.
All right, John. Thank you. We'll talk to you next week.
Stay safe and be well. Bye-bye.